Think about emotions as hypotheses about the meaning of situations. Consider this. You're sitting in a class somewhere. Imagine that. Somebody comes into the class and they step on your foot. How do you feel? Well, it depends on what you think the intention of that person was. If immediately afterwards they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to see you there. I'll make it up to you. Can I buy you a coffee? I really apologize." You might be still a little irritated that somebody stood on your foot. But you're probably saying something like, "Oh, it's okay. Uh, my fault. I shouldn't have my foot sticking out in the middle of the aisle." Somebody walks across their foot and they say, "What's it to you?" That might make you a little more angry because you think that maybe they did it intentionally or they're not showing you the appropriate kind of respect. Our emotions actually do interpret the situation. How we feel, even before sometimes we consciously understand it, is a way of us understanding the meaning of a situation or the meaning of a speech. And that's the reason it's important. One of the reasons it's important for our class is that speech is a way of making present situations that are not actually present to us physically in the present moment. Most of our world, most of our life, most of our concerns are not things that are immediately present to us. Precisely because speech allows us to make present things that are actually absent, we can make speech about things that are past, present, or future. Emotions vary in their temporality. We might say, broadly speaking, that hope and fear are emotions that are primarily about the future. What are we anticipating is to happen? Is it something that's good in the sense of hope or bad, which is what we fear? Sorrow and anger are typically things that are about the past, they're about things that have happened. They might feel really present to us because the feeling of what's happening is present to us, but the object of what has happened is something that's already in the past. It's hard to get sorrow to feel sorrow about something that you anticipate happening because usually that would be something that you would fear. You'd still hope that it wouldn't happen. In the present, we might feel surprise or disgust. Now, of course, human emotion is far more variable than easy categorization like that makes it appear. But when we're thinking about telling a story and we're trying to move people through a number of emotions, as is your assignment in the story of a feeling for this week, one of the things we want to consider is how the relationship between narrative time relates to the emotional temporality of the feeling that we have. So typically, a story is going to end with a feeling like relief or understanding. If it ends with a feeling like fear or hope, that's going to be strange because that feeling anticipates something rather that seems like it wouldn't be the ending of a story. So when we're thinking about how to tell a story, one of the guidelines might be the kind of emotions that are going to be represented in the story and that we hope our audience identifies with. So they'll move through those same emotions. When you have anticipation, fear, hope, curiosity, things that are forward looking, those might be things that come relatively early in a story and allow it to develop. But just because an emotion is a hypothesis of a situation about what is happening, often stories will show you two different sides of something. Perhaps a character gets really angry because they think someone has insulted them. And then it turns out that actually they were the one that misunderstood the situation and now they feel embarrassed. For instance, I once had a student tell a story where she was on a plane and she was getting ready to eat some Nilla wafers as a man next to her was reclining. She was really excited about eating these Nilla wafers, and then he started reaching over and eating them. And she got more and more enraged until she realized, as she was kind of eating them tit for tat for him and kind of giving him a strange look, that they were actually his Nilla wafers and that she had been eating them and he had been allowing her to do that. That kind of misinterpretation often leads to a funny story, but it shows us the way that we vary emotions in a story by showing that a hypothesis was changed or not confirmed, or it was confirmed, but perhaps with some kind of variation or additional detail. So, if we think about emotions as hypotheses about what is happening in a situation, it will help us build a story, both by allowing us to move an audience through the narrative temporality of a story, as well as help us to understand what is important in making an audience feel something. They need to be able to feel enough by understanding what it would mean to be in that situation. The situation needs to be well described that the same kind of hypothesis that someone feeling an emotion would have now becomes explicit in the speech that you're narrating.